running, and there were lights under the door, but there were no lights because the power had been cut off. Well, hello, my spooky friends. Yeah, it's time for another one of those. It's kind of late at night. It's me and Scully hanging out again. It's been a long day, but I wanted to share some spooky stories, and the mood is right. It's dark. It's. Do you hear that? I think the cats are fighting. It's. Anyway, kind of seemed like the time, and Scully was, in the mood to tell some stories or listen. I don't know. So I figured I wouldn't get any sleep unless, I kind of appeased him. So there you go. We're going to tell some stories, okay? So let's jump right in. Now, these first few come from my viewers. This one is by Gary Johnson. When I was in Gettysburg a few years ago, I went on a ghost hunt at Sachs Bridge just outside of Gettysburg. Both sides passed over the bridge. There was a ghost there called Tennessee who likes to smoke. What? Wait a second. Ghost smoke? Okay. What? Yeah, whatever. We balanced two lighted cigarettes on a rounded metal railing, and the end of one lit up as if someone was drawing on it. Oh, wow. Like you could watch the ghost smoke? Jeez. When I asked, both cigarettes did a 90-degree turn. Okay. Oh, no. Just puffing away, having you a big old time. I also got to use the dowsing rod, and while interacting with a ghost who, through yes or no questions, said he was a major from Indiana, I felt my right side go cold. This was late May, and it was warm. Finally, I was taking some black and white photos with my phone and got a photo of someone standing at attention. Oh, wow. Wow. I would like to see that photo. I'm retired military, and trust me, one thing I know is what standing at attention looks like. I know this is long, but I wanted to include it all. I would love to do it again. Oh, hello. I didn't know you were an Alabama girl. You grew up in Sylacauga. I know where Sylacauga is. I've been there, I know, quite a few times through the years. It is the home of Jim Neighbors, aka Gomer Pyle. Let me tell you something. I think he's passed away now, but Jim Neighbors' cousin, no, it wasn't Jim Neighbors, it was George Lindsay, Goober. Goober's cousin used to come around the churches and visit different places. I met him several times. There is no denying the family resemblance. Wow, that's cool. I love me some Gomer Pyle. Love me some Andy Griffith. Thank you for sharing. I don't know about these smoking ghosts. What do y'all think? I hope one doesn't light up here. Okay? This is a no smoking zone. Ugh, no cigarettes. Okay. This one comes from T. Gardner 3874. I was standing at my kitchen table one evening. I had the back door open because the evening was so still and cool. Suddenly, I felt the need to look out the back door, and the smell of roses and a warm breeze brushed my cheek. I felt so sad that like I needed to cry, but felt a comfort I cannot describe. 30 minutes later, my mother called to say, oh, my grandmother had just passed away. I live over 600 miles away, and Grandma's passing was unexpected. I think my grandma came to love on me one last time. I hope that we can do that on our way out. That is beautiful. There's so many stories that y'all share about things happening as people pass. So, you know, you have to wonder, how much time? I need to know. Okay, these are one of the things I need to know now. I've got to do my afterlife planning. We talked about this the last video. We talked about who are you going to haunt and what kind of things are you going to do. These need to be beginning steps of afterlife planning. But if I'm on a time limit, I need to know how much time I've got to, leave a beautiful aroma, visit somebody, smack them in the head, whatever, as I'm exiting. So if anybody has any ideas, let me know. Because, I mean, where do you go for training on this? Okay, Vlad Vampire. My grandmother had been dead for many years. I had a vivid dream where I was back in her apartment and she stood before me. I said, Grandma, you're alive. She just smiled. Hey, I want to tell you, so many people have seen their relatives that have passed in dreams that I have to think that maybe while we're sleeping, like maybe we have the presence. I don't know. Can they come back and visit? Can they send their thoughts? Are they around us? Some people say they're around us all the time. Is that when the veil is thin, when you're like in that state? And can they speak through our dreams? I've heard a lot of people talk about dreams. So I'm not going to discount it, okay? Not a professional story, meaning not by a nurse, but a family one. When my father was in the last stages of Parkinson's a few years ago, he saw and talked to his mother in law, my grandmother. Thing is, he had never met her. She had passed away 6 years before he met my mother. Oh, wow. Well, what a time to meet. Like, I know this is a little awkward. I'm like on my way out, but there are things I want to talk to you about. When I get over there, you better be waiting for me. I don't know. That is crazy. Yeah, especially since they had never met. Um, that's very interesting. I have heard stories of people who have passed away, like had a near death experience, and they came back, but when they were in that state, they said they saw relatives that had passed, but also like the generation above them and so on that were like, I knew it. People saying things like, I knew that was my great great grandmother. I don't know how I knew, but I knew that was her. And then, when I came back, I verified it with my, family. This was her name and stuff. I've heard stories like that. So, maybe they come to greet us. I mean, that would be helpful because I'm not good with directions. I get lost a lot. Somebody please, help me get there, okay? Okay, this one is from Clarence. Very interesting. I am not a nurse, but I worked in hospital maintenance. There were a couple of interesting things that happened at the first hospital I worked at. I worked night shift. Yeah, that's the that's the shift. I was called to a patient's room because there were no lights in the room. The patient had passed away, and the nurse was in the room and then returned to the nurse's station for a few minutes. And when she returned to the room, the lights were out. I checked and found that the breaker for the lights in that room was tripped. I reset the breaker, and the lights came back on. The nurse said she expired and took the lights with her. Maybe she did. Another time I was called because a light was stuck on. It was strange because the patient was incapable of using the call button. Ooh. That's why nurses were surprised to get a call from that room. I think the patient was gone by the time I got there. Anyway, I found the call button stuck and the reading light fixture stuck between the light bulb and the inside of the metal light cover. The nurses swore that the patient could not have done that. I only worked there for about 4 years, but then later I started work at another hospital in another state. I worked there until I retired some 33 years ago and never heard a ghost story there. But one of the things I did was bed repair and preventive maintenances. Some beds were stored on an unoccupied floor. I had heard that there were ghosts on that floor, and I went up there to work on a bed and just had this creepy feeling that someone was watching me. Yeah, like if you've ever had a ghost encounter, like you feel the presence. That's what's weird. Okay, you feel the presence. I used to live in a house, not this one, but another house that I lived in that was a historic house. There, the first probably 6 months I lived there, I felt somebody watching me. at a certain part of the house, and it was just bizarre. All right, this one's from Gumshoe2273. My father is 91, has dementia, and is in decline. He has regular conversations with his deceased mother. My wife thinks it's just auditory hallucinations caused by the dementia. I am not so sure. I'm going to tell you something. I'm not so sure either. Only because, I mean, could this be a hallucination? Of course. And that's probably what most medical would say. But I will tell you this, I have seen so many people have interactions with their deceased loved ones. And if you listen to some of these stories, it's more than just, conversations. Sometimes they sit on your bed and all that. I don't know. Um, it could go either way on that one, but I'm just telling you, I would not be a bit surprised. All right, let's move on to some other stories I found on the internet that I thought were pretty cool. The first house I rented when I was 18, this guy showed up after slamming the oven door at 2 o'clock in the morning, every morning for months, and tried to scare me out. This guy, like a real guy? I guess they're talking about a ghost guy. I hope it's a ghost guy. We chased him out of the house, me and my dogs. He didn't have a sickle. Okay. Whew. But otherwise looked pretty much the same. Could not see the face, but it looked very solid. Oh my God. My dogs were trying to bite him, and it was just going through him. All right. Like, when I first started reading this, I thought you meant like there was a real guy coming in and slamming, the oven door at 2 o'clock every morning. You're talking about a ghost guy. And with a sickle. Okay. Now, this is when you have to call an exorcist. Okay. Especially when your dogs are biting him and their teeth are going through. Okay. Yeah. Leave my oven alone. Okay. I'm not getting up. I'm not cooking. It's 2 a.m. Get the heck out of my house. Go to Taco Bell. I hear they're open. What about that? My first ghost was at 8. Could be younger. Can't remember what age really. My mother was a cook for the cattle and sheep man, and we lived in this really old farm home. One Sunday morning, I was letting the chickens out for their morning feed, and you had to wear thick gum boots because of cat's eyes. I think that's a plant, not like cats. I think it's a plant of some kind, like a sticky plant. Oh, yeah. They cut your feet open. Okay. I know what you're talking about. A woman walking towards me with no shoes on. She asked me, where was John? And I looked and pointed to the cowshed and turned back. She was gone. There was no way she could have ran to the house without getting her feet cut open. By the time my jobs were done, I had the rest of the day to myself, and by the time dinner was ready, I heard my mom say to John, I had a lady here asking for you. But when I said he is somewhere on the farm, just wait and I'll get Joe, she said she was gone for 10 seconds and the lady was gone. One of the workers said, maybe you've seen a ghost, and everyone laughed, but I felt frozen. Okay, because that was the same lady, I'll bet, that you saw. That night when I went to bed, I couldn't shake what I saw and heard, so I rolled over and saw the same lady hanging from the ceiling. I sat up screaming. John, Joe, and Mom ran into my room. I told them what I saw and told them what she looked like, and John looked puzzled, like as if I was lying. I slept in the lounge room that night. The next night, Mom and I heard a baby cry in my room. We walked in, turned on the light, and saw a lady standing at the window, looking out, and then she disappeared. Mom never spoke about it again, and I never got over the fear of walking into my room with turning the lights on. I turn my head away or close my eyes when I turn any lights on in a dark house. That happened 50 years ago. Okay, yeah, because when you have an experience like that, Like it's always there. You just like I can imagine you walking into the room, like feeling on the door, like, turn the light on, give the ghost a second to dissipate. Okay, we're good. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the way 50 years, that is very much a big deal. Okay. Because if you're still having those memories, yeah, that was. So who was that lady? I want to know. Who is that lady walking around barefoot, scaring people, looking out the window? Did John or Joe have any idea if someone had passed in the house or if there was a tragedy there? Because I would think that you could figure out who that lady might be. My wife and daughter kept seeing a woman with dark hair wearing a white nightgown in the house. Like, look, why do all these ghosts look like, the Grudge or, the Ring girl? Why do they all have dark hair and they're wearing a white nightgown? I'm not opposed to wearing a white nightgown in the afterlife, but I mean, a little variety here would be nice, okay? Then during a cookout in the early afternoon, she popped up in the kitchen in front of 5 people and vanished instantly. Come to find out, a guy unalived his wife and daughter in my bedroom. Wow. I saw the kid a few months before we moved. Yeah, I'm curious as to what the kid looked like. That is horrible. But look, 5 people saw the same thing. So obviously something is going on in that house. That is really sad though. They just wanted to come to the cookouts. Come on. No hating on the ghosts that are hungry. All right. My parents bought their first and only home when I was 7 years old, almost 33 years ago. The house at the time of purchase was 100 years old. It looked haunted. My friends would not come to our house because it was known as the haunted house. And for Halloween, kids would skip our house. It sucked. But it was haunted. There were unexplainable things going on in the house, but I never witnessed anything. My younger sister did. My first encounter when I was 9 years old, I was looking for my sister, the one that had seen ghosts, like soon after we moved in, and I saw her running from the kitchen to the living room where I was standing to outside where my dad was. This sister loved to dress up and always brushed her hair. She had a ponytail and a cute outfit on as she's running. I screamed her name, but she didn't stop or turn or stop. I ran outside after her and asked my dad where she was, and my dad was like, "Your sister? She hasn't come outside." And I'm like, she just ran out, and where is she now? And as I screamed her name, my sister pops her head out of the balcony where my parents' bedroom was located, like upstairs, and she's, like, what? And I looked up confused, and I'm like, how did you get up there so fast? And she said, "I've been upstairs. What do you want?" I totally forgot what I wanted to see her for, and I was left confused. Who the heck did I see running if it wasn't my sister? We used to see mimicking ghosts all the time. Then after a while, they became a little possessive over us. Oh, I don't like that. When we started growing up and bringing our boyfriends over, they would be especially mean to them and the activity would increase. Now look, boundaries, spirits, okay? My husband and I just moved back from being out of state and we were with my parents for a few months. My nephews live with them, so we stayed in the living room. My nephew, who now stays upstairs, who rarely encountered anything paranormal, started having paranormal activity in his bedroom and would come down to the living room scared, telling me what happened. He texted me a few weeks ago telling me of other paranormal activity, and I asked him if this happened before we came back. He said it started happening as soon as we got back. So my theory of it not liking outsiders coming in was on point. I haven't lived with my parents for 12 years. This was my first time back at the house since I got married. So, like, even when you moved in, people knew the house was haunted. Sometimes a house can be old and, have a very particular architecture that makes it look haunted, but it's not. And sometimes you can see a house and like you just know. You know it's haunted. It doesn't even have to look like a haunted house. You just know there's something wrong with that house. Have y'all ever had that experience? Because I have. It's like, I don't like you're just going down the street or down a country road and you look over and I don't like the vibe of that house. There's something wrong there. But the nerve of these ghosts not liking, strangers, boyfriends, whatever. Like, come on. You've got to understand that when you pass away, you no longer have the right to make these judgments on the living. Okay? Stay in your lane. I rented a house in Belmont, Missouri in the late 60s. Big old Victorian that was run down and belonged to a woman hoarder. Oh, God. Over 100 years old. The woman was born and died in that house. I was in grad school and the place was cheap and perfect for roommates. Yes, I was a filthy hippie, but I always worked, even when in school. It was a great old house with huge rooms, 2 living rooms, and a grand staircase leading to the 2 upper stories. Must have been quite the place when new and in good shape. Laying downstairs one night, lights were off. Yes, stoned, but with all my faculties intact. Heard someone coming down the stairs. No one was there. Felt someone brush against me as they walked by and into the kitchen. There was no one there. I noted the same experience a few times and mentioned it to one of my roommates. She told me that she had experienced something similar and can feel someone or something staring at her when she was home alone. Again, with the staring ghosts, what is the deal? What is the deal? It freaked her out. Soon, my other 4 roommates shared similar stories. Then one night, a full-body apparition floats down the stairs in front of 3 of us. From then on, the visits were a few times a week, and you name it, we had it happen. Ooh. I'd like to continue my story, which went on for 3 more years, but writing on a cell phone sucks. I would love to see some more stories of this. I know, I get it. Writing on a cell phone does suck. But thank you very much for sharing that. Wow. Okay, we have time for one more. Well, there's this. I was recovering from an injury in my home. I was on the 2nd floor back bedroom. I would hear this. This happened several times. The front door slam. A pair of children's footfalls would start running and run up the stairs, down the hall, pause outside my shut bedroom door. Run back the way they came, slam the door while the lights were flashing under the door like someone is flipping the light switch. I waited till they paused outside the door and flung the door open. There was nothing there. No lights because the power had been cut off. Oh, wow. How are you getting lights under the... Okay, that's the weird thing. Like when people say something lights up and there's no plug, you see it in scary movies all the time, but I've heard people talk about this. Things that are unplugged and lighting up and doing, yeah. Wow. And these kids just run around the house. But that is scary, knowing that physically it is impossible for that light to come on and off if there's no power there. What do y'all think? I mean, and how much ghost power does it take to turn on a light when there's no power? Like, is that really hard? Is it difficult? These are things I need to know. Okay, so I've given you a few things to think about. Thinking about your afterlife planning is one of them. Maybe these are questions that we need answered beforehand. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed these stories. They are true. And if you did, please hit the like and subscribe. And I would love to hear your stories. You can comment here. It's harder for me to find all the comments on here. You can also email me at avelincottage@gmail.com. I've got a Facebook group that nobody's joined yet. It's at avalon.cottage, I think. But you'll find it on Facebook. You can, message me there. I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, Scully and I are going to get some rest. Yes, we are. We are. I'm going to go to bed. I'm tired. Until next time, I hope you stay spooky. Bye-bye.